Okay, so what is he saying? He's saying the dafka dashba pnimius, which externally is a big chassid, it's a big compromise on behalf of the mashpia to get into the world of the makabel mamish, the kingdom of the makabel. Nonetheless, not only, of course, in such a kind of relationship or hashpah does the makabel gain the most, that's obvious. But the chiddush is that in such hashpah, the mashpia gives him a much deeper place in him. And the moshel, the Maimon brought, is the tipa gashmius from the me'ach ha'av that comes from a much deeper place than the me'ach produces seichel, ideas that the brain produces. It's miskabel b'pnimius of the makabel. In the case of the tipa, mamish becomes part of her, and a deeper, immeasurably deeper investure of the giver than any idea, because therein lies the etzem. So the same thing with Maila. So the reason that Chesed Atzilus is called Ze'er, small, or Zute, little, it's not because of Echsorim. Now, Taka externally, it is smaller than Arich, than the Rav Chesed, which is boundless Chesed. But that's not why it's called small. It's not called small mitzad Echsorim. The emphasis in Kabbalah, just in Pashtus, that's why it's called small. To draw the contrast between Arich Hampin and Zer Hampin. But Arich Hampin is great, is literally a big face, a big revelation of the Panim Shalamayla, and Zer Hampin is a small revelation. But the Rebbe insists that the Pnimis Anyonim, this is the Pnimis of Kabbalah. The Pnimis Dike Kavanah in Kabbalah is not to bring out Achsarim but a Maila, and the smallness here is the Bittul. And where's the Bittul? The Bittul is, as we pointed out, the Maimon doesn't spell it out, but it's in both directions. It's the bittul of the makabel to receive, obviously, but the bigger bittul is the mashpia, like Avram's ashpah was because of his bittul, that was the cause of his chesed. So it's the bittul of the mashpia, meaning to say that the chesed is not about the mashpia's greatness, but about the makabel's need and benefit. So it's the bittul of the mashpia. That's why it's called small. Because of the smallness of the mashpia, as it were, in expressing this chesed, not about his greatness, not about his prowess, but about the need of the other and filling it. So that's why it's called Zutta, and therein lies the deepest investor. It's a big chiddush. It's a big chiddush that the biggest and deepest investor of a mashpia is when he leaves his world and gets involved in the world with the makabel. Externally, you would say that's the least investor. It's not your world, and you have to just help someone or give someone a very minute hashpah relative to your big world. It's very small things, inconsequential things, things you don't even need, questions you don't have, guidance that you don't need. But the chiddush is, and this is the endless chiddush of chassidus, that because of the kavanas did it b'tachtonim, so this carries through in every mashpia and makabel model that exists, period. Ultimately, there's the kind of hashpah where it gets down to the tachton mamish, and therein lies the deepest investor. The reason life works this way is because it's all a reflection of the divine desire, or the divine craving, as we now call nisava. Desire can be negotiable, but the craving is not. That's what nisava really means. Koponim.
Where does the Rav Chesed go to?
Even Yishma.
Even what?
Yishma.
So it's not what's the bittul? Your giver is not bittul, and even Yishma, for sure there's bittul.
There's no bittul. That's the point. Not inside the makabel. Not mitzad the mashpia, not mitzad the mekabel. On the contrary, the more Yishmael gets, the bigger his gaiva. His yeshes grows. There's no bittul. Not mitzad the mashpia. He's not doing it an act of humility, as it were, helping somebody else. He's showing his own greatness. That's what Eibishter is doing in Daf Chesed. Before, it's all part of the divine plan, divine design. Before the Eibishter gives Chesed, mitzad mekabel first, which is a tachten. Before there can be a tachten as an elyon, is the matziv of the elyon. What's the matziv of the elyon? The Eibishter shows infinite Chesed. Wow, what a great, grand God. That's not bittul. That's hashpah, it's pashtus. It's being a galis koiches, feeling his great power. Yeah. So now v'zeh gam ken. Let's really start again. The second paragraph, and they say. That's why the Arizal changed the language and called chesed, and not gedula. In the early Mukabalim, what he's hinting to is that the early Mukabalim in Zman reflects the whole Seder in. So the early Mukabalim are expressing chesed the way it is mitzad, the shleimus of the Mailam, mitzad Giluyim, which reveals infinite chesed. Then came the Arizal later, where the Kavanah Pnimi starts to emerge, who lays the ground for the Baal Shem Tov and Chassidus, and he changes the language, which means it changes there's a revolution in focus and understanding, and that is that the Kavanah is dafka in the Tachten. Kavanah is in Chesed Zutta. So it's not by accident, is it? The only Mukabalim called it the Dula Lashon HaPosuk, and then the Arizal calls it Chesed. Yes, as he goes into the same, he was going to say that. So I'm saying that the change of the Arizal reflects the evolutionary process in his galus of the Kavanah Primis. The truth is, it's a big shiloh. This comes up. Yesterday, I'm learning with someone, a bright young man. And we're talking about the Kavanah, previous Chassidus as Megalis. He says, so for thousands of years, the Avos Moishe and didn't know the Kavanah. It's a very good question. It's not one neat answer. It's multi-layers to that. Because on one hand, the answer is no, it wasn't as Gali yet. On the other hand, what does Chassidus do? In every story of Moishe and the Avos shows the Kavanah previous there aspect. Retroactively. So it's not a simple answer. You need to understand Chassidus and its subtlety and the Kavanah and how it evolves to fully appreciate the answer to that question. But the question is a valid question, just looking at things externally. So the purpose of creation, God keeps a secret for thousands of years. You thought till now it's this? No. Tell us the answer. Why does it work this way? So it's an important question. And if you have the answer to that, you're understanding the whole Indian. But I'm just pointing out that it's the same thing here, the early Mukabal and the later Mukabal. So they called it B'Shem Kiddush, and Mukabal and Barishanim, Koran B'Des Aligedes B'Shem Gargas. Gdula Gvura Tiferes. Vila Arizal Koran B'Shem Chagas. But the Arizal changed the language. So my understanding now is not a change of language, it's a change of focus. There, the focus was on the Bligvul, Midas as the Yan, Keser, etc. The Arizal focuses, no, where's the Eibishter's Midas revealed? In Dafkin, in Atzilus. But that's lower, that's after Atzilus. No, the point we're looking at. That's the Kavanah Pnimis, and therefore the Etzem is invested in. So he called it Chesed Gevurah Tiferes V'Hainu. The Afshar Loshen Akos of the Pasuk Taka says L'cha Hashem Akdula V'Gevurah V'Tiferes. So it's called Gedula because Gedula, what does Gedula means? Expansiveness. That's greatness. God is great. Chesed doesn't say God is great. Chesed said God is doing kindness. In the language, you see the difference. whether it's expression of the great God, or it's an engagement in the makabel. The language conveys the difference. It's different dargis. Chesed, Rav Chesed, which is Toyo Bechlolos, Lifnei Tzimtzum, as opposed to Chesed Atzilus. Likewise, the Tefillah also, we talk to say that was established by the Antikinesis HaKatoil, which is very early. And that's how it has to be. It has to be the recognition of Akel HaGodel HaGibber before we can appreciate the Kavanah Primius, that it's Dafka Eres Bekelim, Dafka Shefa and Ashba, and Dafka the of not Eir and Chayis, but the Tachlis is the Koyach. First, you have to appreciate the Eir and the Chayis and the Godel. As the Antikinesis HaKatoil established the beginning of Shmones, and then
the Kel goes on Chesed.
if you continue Shmones, it's customary. It's the same meaning. There we go on throughout Shmones. You're listening God's brachas for specific inyanim mitzad the keli, after forgiveness and healing and everything else. So going from Godel to the Kavanah Pnimis. So we don't mark him so long, nonetheless, Kairad Yazam Bidz of Hashem Chesed Liv Hashem Gdullah Binyan Bezer. The Inyan is, as we're saying, Shebechinas Chesed Da'arich, it's Chesed Da'arich because Hashem Gdullah. Infinite Chesed, that's the appropriate term. God is great. Gedullah. How ironic that they scream God is great when they're going to kill someone. But that's talking a lot of stira. It's not thinking if God is great, you don't make any difference. You're a ticket to my paradise. God is great. This is takin. That's the fuel for murder.
That's why
they're killing the infidel.
That's why they kill, because they're
killing the infidel. It's not thinking not that God is great. It's not thinking of chesed. Wait a minute. It's about God's desire for relationship with every human being. Human beings are not dispensable. You can't kill someone in the name of greatness, because the kavanah is not greatness. So that's the point. So again is nikra b'shem gdula b'ayin lefish hashpa mitzad godless with b'chinas bligvul, because there the hashpa is godless and infinite, but that's not the kavanah. Again, that's the hashpa of Stock has an influence, as you said, davening under the makif of the tzaddik. But that is not an influence that's b'pnimius. That's not the kavanah. Av b'chinas chesed is b'shem chesed. Chesed is also called chesed. Le b'shem du. Ha'nedim b'yoshe gam chesed is b'chinas b'ligvul. Even though the Rebbe is not letting go here, so I'm not calling it small because it's less. This thing, bligvul, as we explained earlier, that every property of bligvul is a keli for the bligvul hamiti, even a relative bligvul. Now he has another point. Alter explains there in Tanya Sha'agod, Lemidas Chesed. Talks there about the point of Tanya is Sha'yichod is explained that just like Midas Agdullah to create Yesh Ma'ayin is completely the etzem, believable, incomprehensible, so too Voda, that the Eibush to create at the same time it utterly conceals himself as is equally incomprehensible to the act of creation. That's the point over there. But in that whole explanation, it comes out that Godel goes on midas hachesed, and he equates it to chesed, which is this pashtos hachayis, the fusion of the life force in all of the worlds and creatures endlessly. So it's bligable. In Cain, midas hachesed, the Zoh, talking about Zoh Datzilus. It's also infinite. Allah and therefore can also be called Gedula. That term applies also. Rabbi in brackets, he adds a point we'll be saying till now, the true Gedula, Mitzad Prat Echad Arikar and Disabligvul, the true Etzem, the true Bligvul is more in Zodin and Arich Canal. The more the oil is invested in the Makabal, it draws some deeper place in the Mashpia. So it still has the Gedula property, the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya. But we're saying nonetheless.
Which means that it goes like pre the result.
No, he's saying we're not doing away with the name Gedula. Yeah, we're still Still acknowledging the name. Because as the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, Chesed Atzilus is also bligvul. But we still call it Chesed, so call it and stick with Gedula and keep it that way. No. You want to call it Kalokim, you can ask Hashem Chesed, Zuta, we want to call it small, to bring out the Maila. Nishat Mitzad. Mipnei Chesed. Chesed Zu. That what's the true Chesed? Is Loi Mitzad God who's not showing the greatness of the Mashpia. Ela Mitzad the Bitl of the Mashpia, to get involved in the world of the Makabel.
Bittul Mashpia or Bittul Makabel?
I said it's both, but the Iked of Mashpia. The Iked of Mashpia, like Avram, Nochi of Eifer, and different Mashpia. What's the Bittul of the Mashpia? That is not about him, it's about the Makabel, whose world is finite and not his world, and it's a big descent, it's a big chassid. That's the Bittul. Even though it's chassid, it's at the Mashpia, he's still Mashpia. It comes out. Chiddush is, that's Bechitzonius. The Pnimius is coming from a deeper place. But as the Mashpia is engaging, he's compromising his world. Bittul. He's leaving his world and getting involved in the petty world of Mashpia. Huh?
When we're saying the Mashpia, we're talking about the Chesed itself.
Chesed Barach.
Here it's Chesed.
I'm talking about God's Chesed that is manifested in Atzilus, as opposed to its Chesed and it's manifested in Arich, which is a display of his greatness.
What can you say is the whole component of the alien is because of the Shach, the whole component. Why Mashpia, the whole component of Arich is Chesed of Bedula of Arich, so there should be Chesed of Atzilus.
What are we saying? What are we saying?
Because the reaction is more important than
in order for there to be a tach, it's got to be an alien. I said, okay, this chesed da'ar. But that's only a chlona for chesed da'tzilus, because he wants a did which doesn't happen without an alien. So first has to be the union of the gilui, of the mile of the alien. And then there has to be the recognition of the makabel that he's tach and he's far away. And that has to engender gagoyim and longing and all of the inyanim that Chassidus and Torah and Yiddishkeit talks about. Then the third stage comes the big news as to visit as du bist the Kavanah is in you. And Adrabah, that's the deepest connection and that's the investment. But that is not and should not be obvious mitzad the Seder HaInyanim. The Seder HaInyanim has to be Gdula, God's greatness, and we're small. We're small, we're far, we're distant. Then comes the whole Chiddush, and Chassidus reveals the back the layers that the pnimius of the smallness is Adrabah. That's the true greatness. That's the Kavanah, the Chleinim is Ab, etc. That's the whole model. Huh?
Small room there, it's one of the interchange.
Keiled Mama Daka, Labor Ruach, Labor Rash, Labor Eshki, Keiled Mama Daka.
Is this Alderech like in these guys of Yudimil and Sonachmin? Is the whole Kavanah is because of the Yid and the Yudimil Sonachmin get an Ilui because of the Yid.
Because of his Katoy. The Gvul at the lowest level. Lowest level. Schet.
What's the bittul giving? If he gives you Shmuel beside the Gadlus, what's the bittul of the lower one? There's no difference. The high world, it's all one. What's the bittul in the Mashpia?
What kind of question are you asking?
What's the bittul?
You just negated salt. Say there's Stalshalos. It's all nonsense. What do you?
I didn't say it's nonsense.
It's all one.
It doesn't make a difference where the worlds are. What's the bittul of Mashpia? What's the bittul of Mashpia?
The Eibush is getting down into Alan's petty world.
And Yishmael to petty world.
Yishmael gets because he gets Indiki Chetzayin. Because it's a Gilui of Bligvol, nothing makes a difference. Everybody can take.
So you say
when you ask a question, it's very nice if to hear the answer. You're not shaking your head before I even speak. It's not saying a word, you're already loud. The Makabel needs bittul also if you want to get the answer. So you have to be mevatel, to open up your head a little bit and hear something you didn't know before. Maybe. We didn't appreciate you. Yishmael gets because the king, the Eibush expresses his grandeur And when it's about the king's grandeur, it doesn't matter if someone abuses that. He's ein be'efes, bottle, lagabe bligvol, he's insignificant. And it's the marshal of the spider and spinning a spider web, which is intolerable in a house, which is gvul, but in the grand palace, no one even notices it. So Shmuel is Rav Chesed and he gets Ashpa because he's not Negeya. Why is he not Negeya? Because Rav Chesed is not about any Makabal, it's about the king's greatness. And the king's greatness is revealed. It inspires, whatever it does, it's irrelevant to the king, what the recipient does with it. And there's room, therefore, there's unique in Chitzayin. The spider spins its web and no one even cares and notices. But inside the Kavanah Pnimius, there's no room for Klippa, it's Dafka and Lakim Mikdusha, and that's where the Etzim lies, etc. So in the Moshe of the king, so what it means is, so when the king is showing his grandeur, it's a parade and so on, and everybody's in awe, wow. That's one expression of the king, and externally, that's a great expression. But then when the king invites someone into his room and gets involved in his life, and helps this person, etc., the one that's a big, then it's chassid. Chassid, where's the grandeur? There's no grandeur. Where's the parade? Where's the talking to this person in his little world? Oh, but there, the pnimius of the mashpia of the king is really best. That's the whole irony and chiddush of everything. Is that somewhat clear now?
It's like the Yom Kippur answer you always said. You get it from the back. And it comes to show his cell phone. I think it's Pimus Chitzenius.
Yeah, mitzad Chitzenius. So there's no bittul, not mitzad the makabel, and not mitzad the mashpia. The makabel is showing his grandeur, and the makabel, the klippa, is gorging himself on it and gets fatter and bigger and more arrogant and more yeshes. It's all yeshes everywhere. And that's what the Maimon is explaining it. That's the yeshes of Yishmael Kedushin, the source of it. Showing his greatness, and everybody's ein be'efes, take, don't take, irrelevant. I'm showing my stuff. So there is we finish?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you say the brackets by other it's like the backlight?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, we finished the paragraph. Okay, now that is the ice. Okay, let's finish now. This ice will help me. Okay. Now, there is Evish being Toya Tikun. So this is the difference between Toya and Tikun. Similar. It's a similar union. Toya on the one hand is what? Tremendous oil. Tremendous oilus in Toya. Tikun is Atzilus oilus Vekalim. It's a structure. It's limited. But from Toya comes the Yinika. Klippa gets its source from Toya. Dafka because of its insignificance. Shebetikun boy moides Vekalim in Oilamat Tikun. Tikun means fixing, literally. And Toya means chaos. So it's a language of the Kabbalah to explain the whole process of creation, right, which we're all familiar with, the Shviras HaKelim. Shebetikun b'ayim le'elis b'kelim, sintikun, the oil becomes contained by the kelim, shezeh, or p'chinas oipnimi. So there it goes through its tzimtzum, and then is invested, Shviras HaKelim infuses with the kelim. Hashenkin, but Toya, oiris merubim, so it's higher, and it is higher. Plot them on the graph of Ishtal. So Toya, of course, precedes Tikkun. That's the point. And it's Oidus Murim Shalei for Yaracha Kelim and Keli, which is Gavul. There's no Keli for the intense and powerful, limitless Giloi of Alikus that is in Eilam HaToyu. This is what we're talking about. Makiv. It's a transcendent. What is Eir Makif? Again, Eir Makif means a Giloi that the Keli is not Negeya. It's about the Mashpia, period. Not about the recipient. And in brackets, this is what we're talking about now. Shazel, Iyan Shali, Shali, Mishalach, Shalah. Eir Makif is not getting into your world. My world is my world, and your world is, if you gain a benefit, you're inspired, good luck for you. But it's irrelevant to me if you are or if you're not. And I don't even notice you. And that's Shali Shalach, 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 Shali, Shali, Shalach, Shalach. And that's the second day in the Mishnah. It's Midas Doim. What's Midas Doim? Now we have the Pnimis meaning of the Mishnah. That causes the Yenika to Sdoim. And Eir Makif is the source of Sdoim, of Klippa being nourished. What kind of hashpah he is? Not because the mashpia is getting down into the world of makabel, which is chassid, which means it's lacking, it's containing himself. He's ain't a chassid. He's just revealing his greatness. The makif is not ready to be lacking. He's not mashpia. That's how it is in Ableida. It means someone who's ready to have help somebody else, as long as it doesn't cost me anything. So then that's a marshal of makif. That's hashpah that comes makif. I'm expressing me. If that is of a benefit for you, fine. If it's not, so be it. But I'm not gonna. It's not gonna cost me. So that doesn't affect the pneumias. So that gives room for that's stoim. So stoim at such a level can get hashpah. Why? Because kachashecha. So it can be abused. So going back to
what does about kasher chaser mashpia mean? What is it? I don't understand that.
As we were learning earlier, that in the Oil Makif, the Mashpia is not lacking anything. Oil Makif means the Mashpia just is the way he is and has an influence. The example we gave is the Chassid who comes to town, he's not engaging anybody, and he has a shpah. That's an Oil Makif. He's not invested in anybody's world, he's even oblivious that he's being observed. That's an Oil Makif, the Kedusha. But such an oil, because the matzav of the makabel is not negeh, therefore it can be abused and taken even by klippa. Klippa gets its nourishment dafka from the makif. Again, the palace, it's dafka in the grandeur of the palace because it's so big and you can't even see the top of the pillars, that a spider can happily make its web and gorge itself. And no one cares and no one notices. But that's ein chassid. The mashpia is not get chassid means descending from my grand infinite world into the world of the makabel. That's chassid.
Right, which is the first part.
Pardon?
About kasher chaser, ain't no mashpia.
That means the makif is a matziv where I'm not going to be mashpia if I'm not chassid. If I'm chassid, I'm staying in my grand world. If it's going to cost me, I'm not going there. I stay makif. Not going into the world of Kanimi. That's what
I'm not changing because of somebody else, in other words.
I don't care to. We're using language, a psychological language, but it's a darge. It's a darge that by definition is ein chassid. It will not lack its bligvul, and therefore, if there is going to be a chassid, then there's no hashpah. The remaining bligvul remains bligvul and looks at disdain at gevul. Gvul is a compromise. I'm not descending into that world and compromising my grandeur. Again, we gave all these mashalim previously in the 9. 3 Eifanim of teaching. 3 stages in teaching. Makif, Pnimi, and then Hashpah Pnimius, Shefa. But I just gave you a mashal of the chassid that's just inspiring by his presence, and then he's getting down into the world of the person. That's where the Hashpah Pnimius. He's chassid then, taking his time and his koiches, but that's where he gives his Pnimius. That's the chiddush of the mind. So Toya is ein chassid. Shebetoya is bispashtas beyeshes. So Toya is all about. So he said that. What is Toya? It is olam hakdusha. Looking at Rav Chesed, Arich, which in our purposes here isn't bligvul. It's all relative. Bligvul. What does it mean? This is a level where the Eibishter is strutting his greatness. So it's Yeshes. Yeshes, the Kedusha. God's showing his greatness. Shebetoya Yisviris be spashtas be Yeshes. Sholchein hoyebem yen hashvira. But at the end, it's at the Keli that overwhelms the Keli because it's not tailored to the Keli and causes a shvira. Now, the way the shvira is the mile, it's also still Kedusha. It's a kind of a good shvira. You should be shattered. You're nothing. The world is nothing. And you should be like blown away in the face of God's believable revelation. So in Olam HaToyim still, it's Olam HaKedusha. That shattering is Kedusha. It's higher than Atzilus. Closer. But if you're not Negev, you're overwhelmed, and Ashpa isn't about Pnimius, then even Klippa also can gorge on it. So there's room for Cheshach too. There's room for Klippa. The parasites feed on this as well, the bacteria. Why? Because it's not the Pnimius, and that's not the Kavan. So the Shvira, the Maila, is like a good thing, it's a good thing. Shvira, you're broken, you should be shattered, you're recognize the limitations of your own limitations and be imploded in the face of the great and wonderful, grand God.
We are being.
That's what Olam HaToyu is. Olam HaKdusha.
We are being shattered, or
the Shvira in Olam HaToyu is still Olam HaKdusha. But from that comes the Inikin. From that Shvira, the net result of that is a clip also gets high. If it isn't about the Makabel, and if you're not tailoring to the Makabel. In other words, what that means is the beginning Shvira is, to put it in different words, beginning the Shvira is, wow, God is so great, and completely blown away. At the end, it's a negative, so I'm worthless and meaningless. So if I'm worthless and meaningless, so this is what I do. I got to find satisfaction somewhere. So he goes to Taivas and Klippus. That's the translate this in Avodah, in psychological Avodah. In other words, if the Mashpia, it just remains in the world of Oir, doesn't get down to Oir Pnimi, and never gets down to Oir what? To Oir, to Ashpa, this is what happens. If he never gets down to the world, the first thing is, he comes to that where he's like, wow, there's a Shvira, a healthy Shvira. Wow, what a chassid. But then what that leads to, I'll never be that. This is not my world. You give up on yourself. And a person needs to find fulfillment somewhere. So he goes to Taivas. That's the psychological play out of what it means Shvira Sakelim, the Maila, and the Yanika, and the falling into Klippas Lamat. So what does the Mashpia have to do? First, like I said, be the Shvira. First, they got to be like, wow. Well, the Brian, this is not where it's at. That's a person. That it should just stay there, which is the Yish, is no. Then he has to get involved, the Mashpia. Everybody can be a chassid on their level. That takes work, and that's chassid. Chassid, who the Mashpia has got to stop being in his world about davening and learning and get down and spend hours in his whole life in somebody else's problems that are not his. And the Chatchili couldn't even understand, to work to understand what they're talking about. But Adrabe, that Ashpa, Pnimius, there lies the real connection. Both ways, Mitzad, the Pnimius of the Mashpia, and certainly Makabel gets the Pnimius as well. Yeah, okay, so today's story. Friends, the thing is a bit of advice about Chassidus, right? It's very nature, it's fluid. Every concept is fluid. Now that we're talking of likus and godliness, and it's all integrated and it has endless layers. It's not like nigla. It's the ox and the cow, ox is an ox and the cow is a cow. And it's not another animal, and don't talk about something else. Every subject is integrated and everything is fluid, everything has. So you have to, it's work to train the mind to think in a more elastic way, less rigid, boxing things in. But the Indian, I think, the words of there's a lashon of the Vaditchra in the Sefer Kedushas Levi, which is the first thing I actually learned as a kid Chassidus before I learned Chabad Chassidus, was Kedushas Levi. He speaks about this Pashtas Hagashmi is in learning, as to divest ourselves from physical imagery and so on, not to think in not spatially in terms of space and level, but conceptually. It's avodah. It's not easy. A world is sensual. It's just easy to define things, box them in. Okay, just open to this